What's going on, everyone? Brian Downard here, one of the partners at Prospecting On Demand, where we install client acquisition systems into our marketing agency clients' businesses to help them get more high-quality sales appointments and make more money. Now, over the past couple of years, I have personally set and taken hundreds of sales calls across a variety of industries. I've done cold calls, warm calls, inbound, outbound, anything you can imagine across B2B services, B2C, home services, medical, legal, and this is really a compilation of all of the beliefs, tips, tricks, hacks, whatever you want to call it, around appointment setting that have served me incredibly well. Now, just to be hyper clear, appointment setting is in between generating a lead and actually getting a sales call. Now, sometimes, of course, people will self-book on your calendar and they'll show up, but it's not always the case, right? And if you just sit around waiting for your appointments to show up and your leads to show up, you're going to get a lot less people turning up and then you'll make a lot less money. So in no particular order, let's go break down these beliefs. We'll run through them. I'll explain what they are. And hopefully you can take just some of these and apply them to your business so that you can get more sales appointments. All right, let's rock and roll. So first one, you've probably heard this before. It's not anything new, but speed to lead is real. What does that mean? It means the faster that you can pick up the phone and call your opportunities as they are opting in, the more likely it will be to get them to transact with you, to do business with you, and to show up to a sales call. So what we do in our company is we have an internal Slack channel, and every single time we have a new lead come through, you can see here just as of yesterday evening, this is where the latest ones are coming through. These people are opting into a lead magnet and demo video that we have on Facebook. So wow, it looks like a lot of opportunities have come through already just in the past couple of hours. And what I do and what I encourage our team to do is you just wait and sit around on this channel throughout the day while you're dialing and doing other things. And as soon as you see a lead come through, ideally within 5 minutes, even better if it's 1 or 2 minutes, you pick up the phone and you call them. And something else that we'll get to a little bit later that I'll mention here is double dialing as well. Double dialing is where you call them once, they don't pick up, and then you call them again. And why that matters so much is because very oftentimes people will have do not disturb on their phone, or they'll just ignore that first ring because a lot of robocalls and spam calls will just call once or go straight to voicemail. When you call twice, it indicates, hey, this is not only this is important, but there's a real human on the other end of this phone attempting to get a hold of you. And oftentimes, like I said, it will allow you to go around any do not disturb or focus modes they may have on their phone. And very often I will get the majority of my pickups on that second dial. So first thing you got to do is make sure as your leads are coming in, you're calling them as quickly as possible. That'll indicate to you, hey, they're in a spot where they're actually most interested. You strike while the metaphoric iron is hot. It's a basic one, but it is so key. So if you are generating any type of inbound leads, have a process by which you can be notified to call them as quickly as possible. I'll tell you one quick story on this to illustrate the point. We had a client who was a part of the community a couple of years ago, and he was making about $3,000 a month in his agency. In 3 months, he 10x'd his business and got to $30,000 a month by simply just calling leads as soon as they responded to his outbound efforts. So he would do outreach on LinkedIn and email and he'd have his notifications on. So the second he got a response, he would drop what he was doing and he would call that lead. And again, if you get to them while they're most interested, the likelihood of them transacting with you is much, much higher. All right, let's keep rocking. So this one's a little controversial, but obviously there's a lot of CRM tools out there with phone dialers built into them, right? High Level's got one, Close.io. I'm not sure about HubSpot, to be honest. It's been a minute since I've been in there, but there's so many tools and platforms you can use to make calling easier. But real talk, what I have found consistently for myself, picking up my cell phone and calling from there, it's a little bit more of a slow and steady pace because you're not just gonna be able to click and dial, or for example, there are power dialers out there, right? Where you can dial 2 or 3 lines at a time, and they do fancy things like local presence where it'll match a phone number closest to your lead. Those are great, and I do like them and I do use them. But what I have found is If I can just, especially for the new leads coming through the door, just methodically get my cell phone out, dial that lead phone number manually, and call them, I will actually get a much, much higher pickup rate, thus leading to a higher overall set rate. So take this or leave it if you want, but I found my personal cell phone to be great. And I think oftentimes what happens is the way in which a personal cell phone is displayed on their caller ID is different than just a random phone number you picked off of some massive list. So definitely worth consideration, something I do regularly and something I recommend you try as well. All right, so indifference. If I could boil sales and setting down to one thing, it is indifference, meaning you cannot be attached to the outcome. If you need them to say yes, they're going to pull back and not do it. You need to show up and use your tonality and also choose your words appropriately. I like to use this phrase, hey, either way, have a great day. And that might be in more of like a voice note or maybe towards like, hey, like either way, if you're not in a place where you want to do this, it's totally fine. I'll leave you alone. But the idea of like not being attached to that outcome, because if you feel needy and they feel that, then they're going to back away because it's self-serving to you and not in their best interest, right? Everyone's favorite radio station is WIIFM. What's in it for me? Same idea here. If you're all about what's in it for you, they're going to pull back and not be as open to communicating with you. And that goes for your tonality, right? This comes with practice and just being more at ease and getting more comfortable speaking to strangers on the phone. But I use a very jovial tonality and very not overly enthusiastic. And honestly, what I see in a lot of setters on our team that have a lot of success is they almost sound bored. They almost sound like you're just that front desk person at the dentist's office calling to confirm your appointment. It's not overly enthusiastic. It's just very matter of fact, stating why you're calling and getting someone on the phone. And if you can get someone to laugh within the first 20, 30 seconds of a conversation, that is even better. I typically like to make a joke, depending again on if it is warm or cold. So if it is more of a warm call and I confirm like, hey, you're the right person, you own a marketing agency, I'm like, okay, great, our marketing team is not fired this month. Good for them, ha ha ha. Or if it's more of a cold call, I might make a joke like, hey, I'm not calling from an overseas call center or anything crazy like that. Not a crazy person, don't worry. But again, trying to get them to break down that barrier, laugh a little bit, get that dopamine hit is a massive win and will give you a big leg up while you are doing this. All right, cool. One of my favorites, volume times skill equals output. What does this mean? It means the skill that you have and the amount of volume that you do in terms of how many dials you make will generate the output you get, right? Seems pretty simple. What does this mean though? You can give someone with a lot higher skill very low volume and they'll produce a lot of output. But if you're newer and you don't quite have the skill yet, you need to compensate by doing more volume. So volume negates skill and volume negates luck, meaning it's the law of averages. If you do this enough, you're going to get to that output. Now here's kind of the secret sauce. How do you get the skill multiplier? How do you actually get really good at this? Hint, hint, you do volume. When I first started doing dials, I didn't like it. It gave me butterflies in my stomach. It made me nervous. And what really helped was doing it around other people who were doing it so we could learn from each other, laugh at the mistakes, and get better. Also, we used to do it live in front of dozens and dozens of people on either webinars or in public, and it just forces you to the table, and it's like this real-time accountability that makes you step up and do the volume necessary to just get better at it. So when you hear me do calls, and maybe on this channel, I'll post some of these live setting and recordings. If you guys think that'd be valuable, let me know in the comments. And what we can do is like that, the skill that I have now, you look at like, wow, like Brian's so smooth, he does this so well. It's just because I've done a lot of volume, guys, right? And that's how you can get the skill multiplier as well. And then you'll have to do less volume to get the same outputs. All right, let's talk about the next one. Cool, the assumed set and softball question. So very often if you give your prospects the open door to kind of just like, wait, what is this about? Are you calling about leads or marketing? What, blah, 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 blah. Like you are now having to play defense. So what I like to do is two things on my introduction. This is mostly for inbound calls where I'm calling an inbound lead who came from my ads. It can work for cold as well, but the assumed set is something to the effect of telling them right away the intention of why you're calling. Like, hey, I just wanted to personally reach out because I saw you opt into our Facebook ad and just wanted to see if it made sense for us to connect. But before we do that, and I don't let them answer yet, right? Because if I stop there, they go, well, I don't know, if I'm busy, I don't do that. But I go into my first softball question, and a softball question is a really simple qualifier that takes their brain off of the rest of the conversation and forces them to answer. The brain cannot ignore a question, so when you ask them something like, hey, you run a marketing agency or SaaS, right? Okay, cool, great, I'm talking to the right person. My marketing team is not fired this month, good for them. Now we're in it, I got to make my little joke, and they have affirmed, hey, they are the right person, they are in the right spot, and then I can get into the rest of the conversation. So let me roll through just, a intro and what it might look like. Hey, is this Brian? Hey, great, this is Alex from Prospecting on Demand. The reason I'm calling you is because I saw you just opted into our Facebook ad looking for more information and wanted to personally reach out, see if it made sense for us to connect. Before I even do that, you're on a marketing agency or SaaS company, right? Awesome. Okay, great. Well, I know I'm calling you out of the blue. Do you mind if I ask you just a couple quick questions to see if it makes sense for us to connect later? So I'm assuming that there is going to be a set happening, and then I'm asking a softball question to get their brain focused on the question, to qualify them, to let them know they're in the right spot. All right, let's keep rocking. Next. When you are doing any type of cold calling, you need to take their ammo. You may have heard this story in the movie 8 Mile, where Eminem is doing a rap battle, and at the end, he wins the battle, right? And what he does is he takes all of his competitors' ammo by saying all the bad things about himself first, before the competitor can say that. In the same way, when you're cold calling, people are going to immediately have their guard up. So you need to tell them that, hey, this is a cold call. And this is where I would make a joke. So it might go something like this. Hey, this is Bob, right? Hey, Bob, my name's Brian. I know I'm calling you out of the blue. I'm sure you get a bunch of phone calls like this and cold calls all the time. Not a crazy person or anything like that calling overseas. The reason I was reaching out, though, is I saw you guys have a lot of great reviews online and had an opportunity that I think actually might make a lot of sense for your business. Don't want to pitch you without your permission, of course, but if you give me 30 seconds, I'd love to kind of share this with you because I think it would actually make a lot of sense for where you guys are at. And so I immediately tell them, hey, this is a cold call. Hey, I'm sure you get this all the time. Hey, you can hang up on me right now if you want to. Most of the time people will laugh at that and now they can't use it against you and they'll just give you the, okay, man, like, what do you got? Tell me. So take their ammo and they can't use it against you. All right, next. Diversify how you reach your leads. So this one's pretty straightforward, but if they give you a cell phone and email while they're opting in, but they're not answering those channels, go find a different phone number for them. Go onto social media, send them a DM there, or a voice note there. Like, there are multiple ways you can get in front of people from, again, email, their cell phone, their business line, their social media accounts. There are so many different ways we can get in front of people that if someone's not answering their cell phone, I'm going to go into Google, plug in their name and their business and try and find their business number and then ask for them by name to whoever picks up. So diversifying how you reach your leads, you'll be able to meet them where they are at. And I'll share a little tip on this later, but when people don't pick up the cell phone call or the double dial, I will leave them a voice note as well, because again, I just want to meet them where they're at. It's, people are a bit more skeptical to pick up phone calls from numbers they don't recognize. So when we can follow up in a place where it's maybe more comfortable, this is going to increase the reply rate and thus the number of people you're actually having conversations with. Pretty straightforward. All right, so here's how you ask for their budget without being weird. Obviously, one of the things you do not want to do is set sales calls with people who do not have the budget to be able to work with you. So I got a really simple kind of one-liner here that I use on my calls. It works really well, and it goes something like this. Hey, Bob, so obviously, there's investment required to work with us. Are you in a place where you can invest into your business, assuming the ROI makes sense? So super casual, but I'm setting the context of like, hey, like clearly there's an investment, and I'm just letting them open up around like, are they able to do this? And you say assuming the ROI makes sense because you want them to feel like, hey, like, you're only going to do this if the money makes sense, but also if you're not in a place where you can, like, it's okay, like, no judgment here. I can point you in the right direction, but it probably doesn't make sense for us to connect any further right now. And this helps you at least get the people off the phone who are just going to be tire kickers and wasting your time and get to the end of an hour-long sales conversation only to tell you they don't have any money. No one wants that. We want to get ahead of it. All right? Cool. So sending the Trojan horse SMS after a double dial, no pickup. So I talked about this a little bit ago, but the idea is if you are getting someone to not pick up, what I always do, and this typically will get me about a 10 to 15, even up to 20% response rate after the fact, which is pretty crazy. I've really never had a better response rate than that for this type of message. You just text them in words, hey Bob, super quick question, ... And then I do a voice note that would go something like this. Hey Bob, hope you're having a great afternoon. I'm personally reaching out because I saw you opted in on Facebook to our Prospecting the Box demo. And I was just wondering, Bob, if you were open to new ways of getting more agency clients. I was checking your profile out here and we have an amazing opportunity I think you'd actually be a really good fit for, but I don't want to pitch you without your permission. So if you want to give me a thumbs up back to this voice note, I'll send you over a super short demo video on how it works. You can check that out. And if you like it, makes sense for you, we can connect. But either way, I appreciate your time so much and hope you have a great day. Cheers. And now all I'm doing is asking them to give me a thumbs up to the voice note in order to facilitate some kind of response to show me, hey, they're there, they're potentially interested. Now this gives me the door to open up and call them a bit later. So highly recommend doing that. Again, meet people where they're at. This works well. All right, cool. Next. So this is just more of a general thought, but like, this is a core skill for every entrepreneur, knowing how to sell, manufacture demand, and set appointments for yourself so that you never really go hungry. So this idea of learn to fish, like if you have to rely on someone else to always be fishing for you, always setting your appointments, always taking them, you know, God forbid that person gets hit by a bus or they leave, they go somewhere else, you're stuck back in the same spot. So these skills that I am teaching you need to be something you prioritize as an entrepreneur. So not only will you never go hungry, but you can show others then how to fish for you. If you try and hire salespeople and setters on commission only, or even with a base, and you don't know how to show them how to do this and they don't see a clear path, the chances of them churning out are extremely high. Even when you can show them the path and you make it easy for them, they still churn out. So this is a skill I believe you need to own and know indefinitely in your business. All right, let's go. So this idea of pre-selling with value. After I set an appointment, and also too, sometimes even prior to the appointment set, we want to just build rapport. We want to build trust and have them feel that we have an efficacy around our topic and we can actually help them. So what I like to do after an appointment is set to make sure they actually show up and they're more engaged when they do show up and have a higher likelihood of closing, is just send them a YouTube video link we've done or a lead magnet, just something valuable and tangible that they can watch and realize like, oh wow, these guys really know what they're talking about, and they come to the sales call more pre-sold, more engaged, with more trust and more interest. So it takes a little bit extra, and I like to actually personalize these, meaning pick a video that's relevant to the thing they said they needed the most help with. So for us, was that offer creation? Was it sales? Was it lead gen, ads, whatever that is? And I'll send them that video. Hey, you might even be watching this video right now because we sent it to you after you set an appointment with us. And this is the idea. We want to showcase efficacy and get them bought in prior to the sales call. All right. The person asking the questions is leading the conversation. As soon as you're put into a position where you have to play defense and ask a bunch of, or answer a bunch of questions, it becomes very difficult. Now, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of the detail close. What I like to do with questions is ask questions about their questions, because sometimes you're just making a blind guess at what you think they want to hear the answer is, and you don't even know if you got it right or not. So when someone asks you something like, hey, like what type of access do we have to you guys? You just turn it back on them. Like what type of access are you looking for? Oh, well, like this and that. Well, why is that important to you? Okay, well, is the level of access more important to you than the outcome? No? You want the outcome, right? Regardless what the access looks like. Okay, cool. Well, Now, again, you can have a more informed answer to their question, and you can take the frame back by you actually leading and being the person asking the questions. All right, let's keep rocking. Cool. People buy and get on sales calls when they feel understood, not when they understand you. So this is where you need to let them do the majority of the talking. You need to ask questions about them that lets them open up and share what they're actually dealing with, what pain they are feeling. So when they feel heard and they feel that you understand their pain, they're going to be much more receptive to your offer and the sales conversation. So this is where you need to not inundate people with a million questions and overdo it and try and like, well, this and that, and over explain your thing because you're really excited about it and use all this technical jargon that they don't understand. Really try to avoid that. People will give you more time and more focused time when they actually feel understood because they feel like you have a solution for them. All right, sell your sales call. This is the idea of you want to make people feel that they will receive value by showing up to your sales call. So when you get on a sales call, your job is to sell the offer and the product. Prior to that, you need to sell the sales call. One of the two easiest ways we do this are, one, you give your sales call a benefit-driven name. So for example, one of our attorney clients that served, it was an attorney agency that served agency. Rewind. Okay, we're doing this live. Marketing agency serving attorneys. What she did was call her sales call the case flow audit, right? Because, hey, we're going to audit how you're getting a flow of cases into your law firm. We call ours the prospecting in a box implementation call. We'll show you how to implement prospecting in a box into your business. So there's this perception of value prior to even getting on the call, and they want to show up. And another good thing to do is just make people feel like regardless of where this conversation is going to go, you're going to give them some good advice. I do this very regularly where I say like, hey, even if ultimately it doesn't make sense for us to work together, I'm going to do my best to give you some solid feedback and point you in the right direction. Because again, if they perceive that they will get value by showing up to the call, they will show up. All right, a couple more. Let's keep rocking. So if they don't show, it's probably your fault. Now, there are exceptions, of course. There are people who are just rude and set appointments and don't show up and no-show you and ghost. It happens. It's common in sales, right? But oftentimes, if someone did not have that intention and they're not a bad person, they don't show up, it's likely your fault for a number of reasons, right? What were your automations? What manual touch points did you do when they didn't respond to any of your automations? Are you creating value and getting them to engage prior to the sales call and communicating with you, sending them links to your website so you can review it? Are you sending a personal voice note or video prior to the call, enthusiastically wanting them to show up and almost guilting them a little bit into showing up? Are you selling your sales call? There's so many variables here that if they're not showing up, there's likely something you are doing wrong. And real talk, it's a lot easier to increase your show rate than it is your close rate. And if you increase your close rate 20% or your show rate 20%, it's going to create the same outcome. And it's a lot easier to get more people to show. So you got to really audit what you're doing to get them there. And we can do a more in-depth video on increasing your show rates later. But real talk, don't sit around waiting for them to show up and then be mad at them if they didn't. Really take a look in the mirror and see what you need to do to make sure they're showing up. All right, let's keep going. Last one here for the day. The bottom part here that's blocked out is for an upcoming event we're going to be doing. But just remember, last thing I'll leave you with, you are the one with the solution. You are the one in a position to help them. So you need to be qualifying them as much as they're qualifying you. And remember that you hold that power, and do not let people walk all over you, because again, you are the person that is going to be able to solve the pain that they are in. You just have to do it in a way that's not adversarial, that's not trying to go against them and battle them on a call. This is key to your success. All right, so hopefully this is helpful. We're gonna wrap up the video. If you haven't already, please give this a like, drop a comment below, subscribe to this channel. We put out a lot more videos and content like this. I hope this was helpful. I will see you guys in the next one. Adios.